Greetings to all the participants. Welcome to the valedictory session of India-USA Trade Connect. I would now like to invite Mr. Chris Johnson to deliver the valedictory address. Chris Johnson serves as Director of Business and Corporate Development at the Graham Corporation in Batavia, New York. Chris manages the M&A responsibilities at Graham and also manages Graham India Private Limited, which he initiated back in 2018. Chris received the MS in International Economics at Fordham University and resides in Buffalo, New York with his family. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Arun. It's a pleasure to be here today. I want to thank the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce for putting on such a fantastic event. It's been very informative. All the panelists and participants and the different industries from green energy, aerospace and defense, IT, apparels and textiles, pharma, medical devices, just a wonderful fireside chat, which was very interesting last session. Just a wealth of information. So I applaud IACC and certainly the Indian Embassy of India as well for putting on a very, very great event that was very informative. So thank you for everyone. So today's topic, what I wanted to focus on was really focus on Graham Corporation's journey into India and how we've pivoted over the years and adapted, and go through that a little bit, and then focus on some of the key lessons that we've learned over the years, and then taking a step back, focusing on, from a big picture standpoint, Indo-American relationship and the importance of it going forward. Certainly a strategic relationship that is built on cultural commerce and many foundations that we want to make sure that we strengthen going forward and over time. So with that said, I'll give a little bit of background behind Graham Corporation. So we're an 85-year-old plus engineer to order manufacturing engineering firm based in Batavia, New York. So Batavia is close to Niagara Falls, between Buffalo and Rochester area. So we design, manufacture, fabricate, and sell capital equipment primarily to the energy markets and the defense markets. So those are our two primary sectors, if you will. And on the energy side, we primarily sell into refineries and into petrochemical plants. And then on the defense side, we primarily sell into the nuclear propulsion systems of the submarines and the aircraft carriers for the U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. Department of Navy. So looking at India, primarily we are focused on refining space, with increasingly looking at the petrochemical space. So just to give a little bit of background between our entry strategy into India, as Graham is a global company, we know focusing on refineries, a global commodity. So we're focused where our customers are. But when we initially looked at India, we really took what we'd call an outside-in strategy. So this was between 1994 and 2018. So for a long period of time, we really played on the peripheral, or on the outside, in which we would sell through EPCs, our capital equipment. So we make ejectors and condenser systems that go onto the vacuum distillation units. So basically, when you have a refinery, you take the crude oil and you boil it in these giant distillation units, and our equipment goes around that distillation unit. So it's the critical components that really turn the crude into gasoline or kerosene or jet fuel, or all the different types of fuels out there. So our equipment goes around there, and so we would really sell through EPCs, which are like the Toyos, the EILs of the world, And our first order, I think, was in 1994. We sold to the Mangalore refinery through Loomis Technologies. So we really played on the outskirts and weren't directly in India during that time period. We would just sell to the EPC who would then deliver our equipment. We fabricated and manufactured the equipment in our operations in Batavia, New York during that time period. And then around 2017 to 2018, we had a pivot. We had a strategy pivot, and that was largely driven by India's industrial policy or domestic policy under Prime Minister Modi to really ramp up refinery production in India itself. And so as the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, along with the ministers, put forth the 5-year plans and the plans going forward, there was a 75% increase in production of barrels of oil over a set period of time. So that really started to take place in 2018. And as we saw that move or that shift to have a domestic industry that can be self-sufficient for India, we realized we had to be more active in the marketplace. And so we shifted from an outside-in strategy towards really strategic partnership with a localized company that we focused on to do some production runs for us. So we pursued that initiative largely, as people are aware. You have the Make in India initiative, which is also Prime Minister Modi led initiative. And so in order to meet the provisions of Make in India, we had to shift half our production to India to satisfy the requirements. So we chose a strategic partner and delivered a job in India. But what we realized through that process was we really didn't control our destiny as a company in India. We were really at the whims of our partner in India, and that wasn't something we were comfortable with. And so in 2019, we really shifted to starting a private limited, Graham India Private Limited, which is located in Gujarat, the state of. And really, when we opened that private limited, what we wanted to do was really widen our marketplace and localize to the marketplace and really adapt our management style to India. So we hired our director, Dhruv Joshi, who's done a heck of a job for us to really scale up that office. And during that process, we certainly focused on a number of couple strategic suppliers to fabricate our equipment in country. So those relationships have evolved over time, and we've really solidified some of those key relationships. So as I saw earlier, we had the green energy. We had Prabhu Bala from Precision Equipment, who's a close friend of Graham and Graham India Private Limited. So somebody who we work with closely and certainly enjoy that relationship. So as we have progressed in order to compete in India, and I should take a step back, our customer base in India are primarily state-owned refineries. So IOCL, HPCL, BPCL, and of course we'll sell through EIL and EPCs in country as well, L&T and the various other ones that are in country. And of course we'll work with the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So selling into those refineries, of course, Make in India is a very important initiative. Cost is an important consideration in the decision-making process. And we recognize that we just weren't cost competitive making our fabricating our equipment in the States and shipping it over. So our strategy has evolved really from a shared margin approach, in which we took in about 2018 as we looked at a strategic partner. So we would still produce half our equipment in Batavia, New York, and half of it in country in India. And so we would provide engineering oversight and for the equipment in India and do quality control checks and make sure it was delivered to the customer standards. Now we're in the process of really shifting all production and fabrication over to India. And so that's an ongoing process. And it's something that we see as being very beneficial to our competitiveness in country, as well as meeting the Make in India initiatives, as well as, culturally being a localized company, Graham India Private Limited, not just a sales office, but doing in-country fabrication from really the full gamut. And we've had our challenges over the years, certainly from an engineering standpoint, from a supply chain standpoint, a cultural issues in terms of having our folks in Batavia interact with our colleagues in India has been a learning experience for us all. But these are things that we embrace and we overcome. And so that's sort of our journey in India. We've matured, we've pivoted, as demand in refinery has increased and in petrochem, we've continued to increase our markets that we look at in India as the growth continues at an accelerated pace, and look for our strategic partners in India to work with day in and day out. So I look at three sort of key lessons when I take a step back and look at our experience in India. And one of them is adapt and evolve. So certainly an important lesson that we've learned at Graham and something that we are inherent and stand by. And you really can't get stale in the marketplace. So as investment continues to occur in certain sectors, we need to be ahead of that investment. And so we need to evolve as a company. And in India, that's certainly the truth. And we also need to adapt. So we've certainly learned through some of our prior experiences that, an outside-in strategy, although successful up to a certain point, wasn't going to be successful going forward. So how do you mature and how do you grow to change and adapt to the on the ground circumstances? So that has been something that we sort of embrace. The other piece is patient but persistent, and as an Indian culture, persistence is certainly something of key characteristics, and we've had to adapt it ourselves to really be patient with some of the bureaucracies that we have to overcome in terms of doing business in India, but to be very persistent to go after the opportunities that we have in front of us. So Graham is again, it's a very old brand and it's very strong in the refining sector. And so we can utilize and leverage that brand, but we have to constantly be of value to the end customer. So in India, we really try to provide a lot of information and content and education about refineries and how they operate and the optimization of them. Graham is a global company, so we do a lot of work in the Middle East and South America and the US and the Western Canada as well, and all major refineries. So there's a lot of lessons learned that come out of that, and we certainly share that with our counterparts at IOCL and EIL and the various HPCL and BPCL and the various Reliance as well, some of the companies in that space. And so that has sort of created a distinction for us in that we provide that really free of charge, and that has sort of separated us from our competitors in terms of providing that type of content. The other piece that sort of wrap in a key lesson is I call it cultural humanity, if you will. It's really a zest or a drive to learn more about India, its culture, our people, our employees at Graham India Private Limited, but to really embrace them as a family and to bring them, pre-COVID and soon going forward here, we have exchanges where we bring our folks over. We are actively in country as well. And we view ourselves as a family, really, and we embrace the cultural differences that we have, and we try to learn from one another and adapt and grow as people. And so we really embrace that side of it. I think it's a distinction that we have, that we treat it is a business, and there's a bottom line, and we have to be profitable, but the people side of the business is very important to us, both from a customer and employee standpoint, both here and in India. And so that's an important piece. So lastly, as I look at our direction, we have a very good foundation of India. We have a number of installations and things that we've done in country to help India grow in the refining and petrochemical. And we've built a strong team, and we've certainly learned throughout the years, but it's been a wonderful experience for us. We really like doing business in India. It's not easy. It's difficult. We have headaches sometimes on both sides. Our counterparts at Graham India struggle with the American side, and we struggle with the Indian side, but that's okay. We overcome it. We see great benefit and value behind the growth that's happening in India. We see opportunities for our partners in India, in the United States as well. And we think there's a lot of opportunity on that side. So we see two-way value being generated here in numerous ways: commercial, social, culturally. And that makes it a lot of fun. It's just not a business. It's more than that. And so we embrace that opportunity. So it's good. So I always look at big picture and what's important. And certainly with the India-US relationship, it's, we have the two largest democracies in the world. So the strategic importance of that relationship, both in the past and going forward, is just of vital importance to the global economy, and geopolitically, and from a defense standpoint as well. So it's very important that we continue to build on that relationship and really grow the relationship. So Prime Minister Modi has certainly been consistent with his leadership and embracing in a fair way companies from the US and building on the strategic relationship. So we hope that continues. One of the other pieces is really that policies that are in place remain consistent. So we have that predictability, and that's really a government policy on both sides of the fence. So, when we look at the Make in India initiative, if you will, we might not like all the aspects of it from a foreign company doing business in India. There are certainly provisions in it that are difficult for us to meet, but the one piece about it is a very predictable piece of legislation, if you will, or a policy. So as long as it's predictable, we can deal with it. It's the unpredictability is what really causes consternation or problems for companies. So consistent policies is certainly, we are always promoting that. We probably have to do more work on our side, the US side, to make sure that our economy is a little bit more predictable in the political space as of recent years. So that's something that is probably more on our end than on India, which under the Prime Minister has really solidified his leadership position and has created a growth plan going forward. And then the other piece, and certainly IACC and I think everybody in the panelists over the last 2 days and participants, is how do we increase trade and commerce? So you've got wonderful technologies and businesses in India. We've got wonderful technologies and businesses in the US. How do we continue to build on that commercial relationship and build financial prosperity for all of us? I think it's a cornerstone of our relationship between the two countries, the bilateral nature of the path forward. And so any opportunity that we have to build upon the commercial and economic and trade side of the fence, whether that's through foreign direct investment or trade promotion on both sides. That's something that we all must embrace. Certainly we understand, I think everybody that's attended the last 2 days understands the importance of that relationship, but it's something that we as a group need to keep on pounding that drum to make sure that the politicians and just the general populace as a whole understands the importance of commerce, international commerce to the domestic industry and employment and prosperity as a whole. So those are sort of three big picture issues that I always see us wanting to pursue in terms of India and the United States. The bilateral relationship, growing that, protecting it, and strengthening it, really building upon the foundation of commerce and international trade, and then really having strong leadership and consistent policy making on both sides. And that's sort of what we want to bring home, if you will. So with that, it's been an absolute pleasure to provide a brief keynote here today. I appreciate the time and everything. It's been a wonderful event. The panelists again have really stepped up and made it, providing content that's valuable. I know I've got sheets of information here in front of me that I'm going to have to type up here and put them into notes for everybody. So thank you so much. What a wonderful event, and congratulations. Great job, everyone.
Thank you, Chris Johnson, for your interesting keynote address at this valedictory session. I must admit that it was a very honest exchange of views, and I think it was very, very useful. A lot of takeaways from what you just spoke. How important it is for us to understand and respect the cultures of each other countries. And you've given a clear example of how good a partnership can turn out between an US company and an Indian company, as long as we are ready to admit our cultural differences and ready to learn from each other and work together. And I think this is very encouraging for many Indian companies and entrepreneurs who look to foster new business relationships with US companies. Thank you once again for joining in this valedictory session. Dear friends, as we now come to the end of the inaugural edition of the India-US Trade Connect, on behalf of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank all our sponsors, our support partners, speakers, various other chambers, Indian embassy and consulate offices in the US, government officials, service providers, all the exhibitors, attendees, the IACC Secretariat, especially our National President, Mr. Kapil Kaul, and Sujata Ravishankar from the Southern Regional and Tamil Nadu branch, and all others who have helped us in conducting this first virtual trade expo titled India-USA Trade Connect. This event would be meaningless if not for the support and patronage of all the participants and attendees of this trade expo and the various keynote sessions that were held over the last 2 days. I'm sure that all of us would agree that through this event, we have been able to achieve our collective goals only because of our collective efforts. We hope that this event has helped build new relationships that would eventually help create new opportunities and make this world a better place for all of us. This Trade Expo platform, along with all the virtual booths, will remain active and accessible to all attendees and participants until the 31st of March 2022. On behalf of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, we now convey our best wishes to all of you. Thank you, goodbye, and stay safe.